Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel, wishing you a happy early start to slice Monday morning over here. It's nice and dark outside in Helsinki, Finland, but there's plenty to talk about on Bitcoin on the short-term timeframes leading into the higher-term timeframes. And I do believe that there is a potential for a bit of a trap going on as setups do emerge early on in this week. In fact, we got one in front of our faces, well, soon enough in front of our very faces as we get through this video here. Anyways, other than that, I want to once again give the spotlight to the buyback promotion going on, as they're actually going to be offering you to get the Jewel Light for free for the first 30 days if you follow the directions in the link in the description below. It'll also award you 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders. All right, sweet. And speaking of that, we actually can start off with a bit of a Jewel Light setup here, as we do reference the 12-hour time frame, and the 12-hour time frame, as you can see on the Jewel Light, is at the extreme lows, and it's actually turned white as of, I guess, late Sunday, or I guess at the start of Sunday. As we didn't really talk about this one yesterday, because yesterday was obviously long-term time frame analysis. But in this case, obviously, this is going to fulfill the criteria for a bit of an early setup. So the setup is this: anytime that we do see that the Jewel Light goes below 35 and then turns white, accompanied by the PMARP being below about 50, in this case is what I believe I programmed this particular setup for, that initiates a setup, which we can go ahead and use the TradingView backtester for. And out of 90 past iterations, 74 and about 0.5% right there did produce a nice upside bounce. Now we'll go over the average winning trade and whatnot, as well as losing trade as well. But for right now, let me actually just get rid of this and go back into the actual chart itself. And we can see a few things. So first and foremost, obvious risk management on this one, or it's not necessarily risk management, as this is not financial advice, but what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to say this would be invalidated as far as this back-tested setup goes below 26,500 on a closing basis. I would even say that a lower term time frame, a 4-hour, 6-hour, would probably do it as well. Don't necessarily think that it's necessary to wait for a 12-hour time frame closer below that region. But ultimately, that setup did fire off. Just yesterday, it looks like early yesterday. So with that in mind, going back into the strategy tester, let's go look at what the average winning trade was from this particular setup over the past 90 iterations. And the average winning trade was about just under 6%, with a maximum at 8.5%. So going into it right on over here, let's just play around with the numbers. We'll get to the average loss as well soon enough, as that is just as important. But about 6% would put Bitcoin where? 29,200 actually, 29,200, which is actually really important, because that is essentially where, if Bitcoin could actually start to close above on higher term timeframes, namely a daily, I would start to look at this current price action as a confirmed trap, and Bitcoin likely to work its way onwards and upwards back up to the current highs at 31,000 bucks, and very likely new highs towards somewhere between about 32 to 33,000 bucks. So do keep that in mind. So if this does play out, that's essentially what I'd be looking for. And of course, we can also go ahead and reference the average amount of time that it did take for these particular ones to play out, which was 17 bars. So 17 bars on a 12-hour time frame, that's like 8.5 days basically, and we've already eaten up one of those days. So about basically this next week is where we'd expect that to happen from. So that means in the interim, we could very easily see moves back down somewhere around the range lows, maybe even a little bit lower. I should get rid of these LARP lines over here. This is what we drew. This is what we drawed last week. Actually still relevant, funnily enough, but I think that this setup is just more interesting as of right now. But we could see something like this over the next few days throughout this week, and then the move. That would be completely within the bounds of the probabilities that we just looked at. But going back into it, I do want to go ahead and reference the average losing trade as well. Let's see where it is. And it was significantly more, actually. I shouldn't say significantly more, but in this case, about the same on the other side, meaning that if we do see this one lose, we're probably looking at a move back down somewhere around 25,000 bucks. Basically, if you see the failure condition met, 25,000 bucks, very likely. So let's actually extrapolate on that point a little bit more, because we can go ahead and reference the weekly Gaussian channel yet again. The weekly Gaussian channel, I should probably explain the relevancy of this. Basically, anytime that we have seen Bitcoin trade below the Gaussian channel when it turns red, and then Bitcoin reclaims the mean band, which is the one right here, it's typically gotten a free ride to play between the top side of the range and the mean band. And basically, the idea is that Bitcoin is essentially more or less bullish, looking for an upside resolution as long as it remains above the mean band. Guess where the mean band is right now? Guess where that mean band is? It is crawling its way down now at about 26,000 bucks. Last week it was about 26,500. So you can imagine the next week after this, 25.5 or so. So it'd start to be in alignment with what we just looked at earlier, meaning that if Bitcoin were to fail, you're going to very likely see a retest of the mean band. And if the mean band does fail, that would be a great indication that Bitcoin is about to probably fall through the fucking cracks of the floor right there, somewhere down around 21 to 20,000 bucks. Or sorry, when I want to belabor that point a little bit more, $21,000 to $20,000, like back down around where Bitcoin was in early January, basically. So yeah, that would be my sort of harbinger of despair if Bitcoin were to close below that region again. This current week's going to be about 26,000 bucks. Next week, probably somewhere more around about 25.5, maybe 25 even, who knows where it pops up around. But again, as long as Bitcoin's above there, I look for it to do something like this, where it probably tests down around there. That's fine. Maybe trades this way sideways and then gives another try to the upside. That is essentially my bias as long as Bitcoin is, again, above the mean band. I do look at this one as more likely to play sideways and up. Similar to what we did see, maybe it's best shown on this time frame, on this particular iteration where, again, Gaussian channel turns red, Bitcoin reclaims the mean band, plays between the top side and the mean for, in this case, it was from basically, actually, this is really strange. This is about the same time frame here, from late April, which is what we're at right now, to July is where it actually did bust on through with a few tries in between there. So it can obviously take its time. In some cases, you do get something like this, but obviously we're not dealing with something like that because we've already seen it reject from the top side of the channel. So again, that is still within the cards. And I essentially, I guess, am more biased towards that as long as Bitcoin is above the mean band. Just, going off of this. Anyways, moving on now. I did also want to follow up on the 4-hour HPDR ranges here because what do you know? The bottom side of the range, the 26,600 or so, or 26,700, is directly in alignment with our invalidation for this particular one over here as well, or about right there, 26.6 or so. Probably going to be an early warning signal if Bitcoin does start to close 4-hour timeframes below there. By the same token, to the upside, well, what do you know? Top side of the 80% of historic returns range highs is 29,250. I believe if we go to the daily as well, it's actually a little bit lower than there. Maybe the 12 hours going to have it. 12-hour median is going to be about 29.2. So again, here's the thing, in kind of putting all the puzzle pieces together, while there is a higher probability of a bounce based off of this, and actually a few things that we looked at last week that are slowly taking their time to come to fruition here. My main point is that one, Bitcoin more likely to bounce from this region before breaking about 26.6, let's say. 26.6, 26.7, depending upon which time frame you really want to go with. And by the same token, bounce, not the same thing as reversal. Bitcoin can bounce up all the way to 29,200 and it's fucking meaningless. The higher term time frames would still be suggesting that at best sideways for a little bit of time. If Bitcoin start to reclaim 29,250, however, that's when the talk of trap being confirmed is once again at the forefront of at least videos like this. We can start to look for moves back up towards the top side of the Gaussian channel, probably a retest somewhere around there, probably another rejection, and then, well, we'll come back to it after that. But for right now, sideways, maybe very, 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 very short term, we do see another retest of the current lows, somewhere around there is completely fine. Just don't want to see a break of the current lows. That would be the big one. Anyways, moving on into stochastic momentum, I do want to show as well that stochastic momentum across multiple timeframes is starting to really reset here compared to last week. Now, I am referencing CME right now. We'll actually go over spot price action as well because I think it's incredibly interesting here. But the hourly timeframe is going to be showing upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 27,650. I do actually expect this one to kind of flip-flop here. So, short term, if it does come back down and retest somewhere around, $27,000 lows, that's fine. 4-hour time frame, however, is going to be crossing to the upside from extreme lows right here, as you can see, and will be remaining with upside posturing as long as Bitcoin's above 27,400. Again, coming in from the bottom side of that critical zone, as you can see. 6-hour time frame, same fucking thing, right? Same thing. 27,600 about is going to be the magical number for the pivot to flip. But again, coming in from these extreme lows right here, matching up with the 4-hour time frame and even the 12-hour time frame, as you can see right here, is going to be a sign that Bitcoin's more than likely in for an extension of this current bounce than not. Maybe after retesting the lows one more time, 12-hour time frame will officially turn up on CME above basically 28,000 bucks. Obviously, spot price action is already up, and then the daily for CME is coming down pretty heavily here as well. It's still going to obviously have downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's below 29,900, but that number is massively, massively declining alongside Bitcoin more or less holding the range lows. I mean, yeah, it's had a decent pullback, but, let's put things into context right here. Bitcoin went on a 100% run tear, off the current lows. It's experiencing about a 10 to 15% pullback right now. I don't think that's unreasonable. Personal opinion, at least. If we go over to spot price action, it becomes a lot more interesting here because obviously, it's trading over the weekend, and with Bitcoin more or less going sideways, the stochastic oscillator continues to just essentially have a reset. Now the current pivot for the daily on spot price action is $29,000. So obviously, hey, god damn it, trading view, that was my bad. I hit the fucking keyboard, but I blame it on trading view nonetheless. Fuck you, trading view, and it rhymes. So it's true, just like Dr. Seuss. Anyways, if Bitcoin were to pop back up, play out the 12-hour time frame to even the average, and then close the daily above there, then obviously this condition would be fulfilled as well. You see daily momentum start to turn to the upside. Okay, game on once again, and I guess all the people looking for significantly lower are going to have a bit of a difficult time with that. But here's the thing: until that does happen, there is still a pretty damn good threat of a lower move. As we looked at on the 2-day time frame at the end of last week, I believe it was, nothing's really changed there. It's still kind of baking within its own setup. I wonder, do I even have do I have a chart up over here? Maybe. Let's see. Yeah, it is still kind of baking within its own setup. But we'll come back at that one tomorrow because there's going to be another closure. And I suspect that we'll have more clarity on that situation. Really, if this one's going to play out, we do expect it'll be validated below like 26.6 or so. And at that point, very likely going to see somewhere 25, maybe a little bit lower than 25. And at that point, depending upon where the weekly closes, we could very easily see that move down to like $20,000 or so. I still kind of think that that's like the worst case scenario. And to be fair, for the higher term timeframes like the weekly, stochastic momentum is starting to turn to the downside yet again. In fact, we'll be remaining with downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's below 30,350. So anyways, that's a long way of saying I'd like to wish you the best as always. I'll be signing off on that note. I think this video's been long enough. As always, want to be wishing you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.